This is Matthew Kratter's Bitcoin University. Today I'm calling my video 21 Can You Do Something For Me? This is not going to be about 21 Savage. Rather, it's about a new Bitcoin company that's patterned on MicroStrategy, patterned on strategy, that's going to be launching. This new Bitcoin only company is going to be called 21. And the ticker, of course, will be XXI, which is the Roman numeral version of 21. The CEO of this new company will be Jack Mallers, who's currently CEO of Strike. He will remain CEO of both companies simultaneously, it looks like. And the anchor investor, the majority investor, will be Tether, which is the world's largest stablecoin issuer and the issuer of USDT. The minority investor, will be Softbank under Masayoshi Son. And 21 will go public via what's called a SPAC merger with another ticker called CEP, which stands for Cantor Equity Partners. This is what's called a blank check company, and this is an easier way and less time-consuming and expensive way of taking a company public, basically merging with one of these SPACs. Now, Cantor Equity Partners, CEP, which is the ticker, you can look that up to follow the progress of this deal. CEP is currently run by Brandon Lutnick, and if that name sounds familiar, it's because he's the son of former Cantor Fitzgerald CEO and now current U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. He was CEO of Cantor but stepped down when he joined the Trump administration. And Howard Lutnick, the father, has said that he owns hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin, soon to be billions of dollars worth of Bitcoin. And so he is a large holder, obviously. Cantor Fitzgerald currently holds, according to them, all of Tether's U.S. treasuries, which back USDT. And a little bit of trivia, they were also on the top floor of the World Trade Center on 9/11, and everyone perished, obviously, who was in that office. 21 will be following the strategy, the MicroStrategy playbook that's been pioneered by Michael Saylor. 21 will basically be issuing various forms of debt and equity and then using the proceeds to buy Bitcoin for their balance sheet. SPAC, of course, just stands for Special Purpose Acquisition Vehicle. It's an easier way to go public, as we said. The history of SPACs, if you've been following this space, it's full of fraud and broken dreams. For example, Chamath's SPACs from a few years ago were a complete disaster, and there was this whole SPAC craze from a few years back. That's not to say at all, though, that there's anything fraudulent about CEP. I think this is obviously a legit venture with very impressive group of people and group of institutions participating. The one thing, though, I would say, though, it's currently trading, if you look at CEP, the ticker, and the market cap, it's currently trading at a very rich mNAV, or multiple of its expected initial Bitcoin holding. So I just took a snapshot of this, currently trading at a market cap, as I'm recording this, of 354 million. That's CEP's market cap. And if you do the math, this is what's going to be 2.7% of the future company after they do the merger. So that's valuing the whole company at approximately $13 billion. Now, they say they're going to launch with 42,000 Bitcoin, which is very impressive. I believe they're getting these from Bitfinex or Tether. 42,000 Bitcoin times current price of Bitcoin as I'm recording this, 95,400. That gives you $4 billion worth of Bitcoin. The whole company being valued by the market currently at $13 billion. And so that's a multiple of 3.27. I'm basically dividing 13 billion divided by 4 billion. And so that's a pretty rich NAV. Again, I've spoken about MicroStrategy. I've spoken about strategy and the various NAVs, mNAVs that it's traded at, the various multiples of NAV. And I don't have a good idea where this should be. I think mNAV should definitely be above 1 for these companies. I'm not sure if it should be 3 or 5 or 10. I think it should probably be lower than that. And that's one reason I'm not invested in these, because I don't have a good feel for that. But the reason they trade at a multiple of the underlying Bitcoin holdings is because they have the ability to generate future Bitcoin yield. And they may also have other projects coming, as we're going to see with 21, working on other things that could contribute to future earnings and hence future Bitcoin accumulation. So this is currently traded at a pretty rich mNAV. If we take a look at MicroStrategy, depending whether you're using diluted or basic shares, it's currently trading at about a 2x mNAV. So you're paying a lot more if you're buying CEP. And of course, this is the latest shiny new object on Wall Street. So it makes sense that there'd be a lot of exuberance and it'd be trading like this out of the gate. If you're finding this video helpful so far, just ask you to help to support this channel's educational mission. Hit the subscribe button, that does really help. Leave a like, leave a comment, question, suggestion for a future video, and share this video with a friend or family member. If we take a look at the prospectus for this deal, which I was able to find online, this will give you a better idea of what insiders get and the way these investments work. So under investment opportunity, investors would get an opportunity to purchase equity at approximately 1x multiple to Bitcoin net asset value. So whereas MicroStrategy is currently trading at an mNAV of about 2 and CEP is at an mNAV of about 3.27, if you had been an original investor in this, an institutional investor, you'd basically get to buy these shares at an mNAV of 1. And so now you've got a huge paper profit. There's nothing illegal about this. This is usually how Wall Street deals work, but you just have to be aware when you're buying into something like this, you have to be aware of who's been feeding at the trough before you. So CEP is currently trading at about $32 a share. One thing to keep in mind, if we see these lower candlesticks down here, these blank check companies, these SPACs always trade at an initial value of $10 per share. That's just sort of how they're standardized. And so we can see this was trading at $10 per share for the longest time, now trading at 32. If this, one of the risks of buying this at this point before the deal is actually closed, I don't think it's actually closed yet, is if something were to go wrong. And again, not trying to FUD this, I don't expect anything to go wrong, but a very, very small probability if something does go wrong, this NAV, the price of CEP goes back down to 10 or close to 10. So that's one thing to keep in mind before you ape into this. This is significant though. 21 is going to be a very large holder of Bitcoin. And if we look at BitcoinTreasuries.net here, it's really only going to be third. The only companies above it would be Mara, which is a Bitcoin mining company, and then of course MicroStrategy, Strategy itself. So this is coming in as a very big player with quite a roster of impressive people. If we take a look at that same prospectus, if we take a look at their business plan, Bitcoin accumulation, they will deploy Bitcoin accumulation and management strategy, acquiring Bitcoin, actively managing Bitcoin holdings, and then just like MicroStrategy, issuing debt and equity securities for Bitcoin purchases. They're also going to be doing what they call in the second bullet point here, Bitcoin education and branding. They're going to put out branded videos and modular educational content. So trying to educate both institutional investors and retail investors. And then the third point here, BTC financing, 21 expects to engage in a range of Bitcoin-related activities, including financial advisory services, offering Bitcoin-related debt and equity structured products, which certainly Cantor can help out a lot with, and also Bitcoin-related lending. So when you see all of these, this would be one way of possibly generating a much higher NAV because you have the basic value of the Bitcoin they're going to be holding, and then they can obviously generate earnings if they're successful at rolling out Bitcoin-related financial products and educational products as well if they can charge for them. I thought one thing was interesting here is Parker Lewis points out that Softbank and Masayoshi are coming back to Bitcoin. And this is a difficult thing to do if you were following the history here. As Parker points out, Masayoshi bought $200 million worth of Bitcoin, and reports have him having realized a $130 million loss. Couldn't take the volatility. But despite Bitcoin rising 8x from where he got out, he got over the negative psychology of that mistake. There's a lesson here. So that's quite impressive. And SoftBank does have a long history. My impression is they haven't been that great at investing apart from a few big winners like Alibaba. A lot of their telecom plays have been disasters, but definitely bringing a lot of experience to the table. And so this is impressive. 21 will be joining the ranks of other companies that hold Bitcoin, as we said, like MicroStrategy, Tesla, Mara, Riot, Semler Scientific, Metaplanet as well in Japan. The strange thing, of course, is with the exception of Tesla, because it's hard to, maybe Musk is a real Bitcoiner. It's kind of hard to tell, and the fact he pushes Doge and does all these other things. So I'd say with the exception of Tesla, it's weird all these top holders of Bitcoin are only really been the result of Bitcoiners putting Bitcoin on their companies' balance sheets. And big tech still doesn't get it, as we saw yesterday with Google's earnings. Rather than buying something like Bitcoin, they're going to spend $70 billion buying back their own stock, which is kind of silly. Hopefully it's not an overvalued stock at this point, because when you buy back an overvalued stock, you're basically destroying capital for shareholders. If you want to dig a little bit deeper, this is an example of how the structure is going to work for 21. Basically, the different SPAC shareholders. There's PIPE investors, a private investment in a public equity or something like that. This is a very complicated thing. And so as a retail investor, I think you have to be very careful investing in something like this unless you understand all the ins and outs. And this is not something that I'm super interested in, so I haven't gone through and looked at all the different things that are going on here. But again, you need to do your due diligence before buying something like this. So in summary, can 21 do something for you? Perhaps if you're a TradFi institutional type. Personally, though, I like owning things that are outside the financial system. I don't want my savings to be trapped inside of an easily censored or frozen brokerage account as they would be if I owned Strategy or owned 21. Especially, I think it's especially important to consider this as it becomes clear that we are deep in the fourth turning and there are many scary geopolitical things happening, and it's unclear how the US's debt situation will be resolved. I think things probably still end quite badly. None of this, of course, is to cast any shade on people like Saylor and Mallers who are buying Bitcoin for their corporations. We shouldn't eat our own. We shouldn't attack our own. These are good Bitcoiners. And this is part of what global Bitcoin adoption inevitably involves. And it's also going to massively pump the bags of Bitcoiners like you and me who own BTC but may not own MicroStrategy or 21. I obviously don't own either of them and have no plans to purchase either of them. As for me, I will continue to add to my position, which I'm now calling Cantor Equity Partners. It's not publicly traded. It's just my funny name for what I'm calling my Bitcoin in deep cold storage. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit the subscribe and like buttons. Hit the notification bell if you want to be notified when I publish my next video. And let me know your questions and comments in the comment section below. Thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.